Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. We're just gonna jump right into it because there was a lot that happened today, starting off with obviously the announcement of the 25% tariffs on our steel and aluminum from the US. Now, our government decided to push back, and we had this announcement from Dominic LeBlanc earlier today.
I am announcing that the Government of Canada, following a dollar-for-dollar approach, will be imposing, as of 12:01 a.m. tomorrow, March 13th, 2025, 25% reciprocal tariffs on an additional $29.8 billion of imports from the United States. This includes steel products worth $12.6 billion and aluminum products worth $3 billion, as well as additional imported U.S. goods worth $14.2 billion for a total of $29.8 billion. The list of additional products affected by counter tariffs includes computers, sports equipment, and cast iron products as examples. These tariffs are in addition to Canada's 25% counter tariffs on $30 billion of imports from the United States in response to U.S. tariffs put in place on March 4th.
So we're going to be hitting back on their steel and aluminum. And with this announcement, Melanie Joly, who is also there, decided to kind of put this plea out towards the American viewers.
I now would like to talk to the American people, to our American friends. I want you to remember this. Canada is your best friend, best neighbor, and best ally. Many of us have family on both sides of the border. Canada is also America's best and biggest customer. We buy more American goods than the UK, France, China, and Japan altogether. Together, we have spent generations building a relationship between our countries that is the envy of the world. Canada is not the one driving up the cost of your groceries or of your gasoline or any of your construction. Canada is not the one putting your jobs at risk. Canada is not the one that is ultimately starting this war. President Trump's tariffs against you are causing that. And there are no winners in a trade war. American friends, help us help you. Please help us end these tariffs as quickly as possible. And please talk to your elected representatives at the federal, at the state, and municipal level. Please talk to your governors, to your senators, to your House representatives, and to your mayors. Send the message to the White House. Working together, Canada and the U.S. have built a strong economy, and working together, we can bring down inflation and bring stability to the markets.
Now, some might say that was a good and direct message towards the Americans to let them know it's not us, it's their president. But we have been put into this position because of our government as well. Interprovincial trade not being an option, huge problem. Not having the pipeline from east to west or west to east, however you want to say it, a big problem. Us relying so much on trading with the U.S. and not doing some self-sufficient things, a big problem. So we can't just throw it all on Trump, say orange man bad, we're not to blame for anything. And this actually ties into the meeting that happened with all the premiers. And this announcement came out from Danielle Smith, where she said premiers across Canada are uniting to build more oil and gas infrastructure from coast to coast. I'm happy that Premier Tim Houston is aligned with what Alberta has been arguing for decades. We need to knock down interprovincial trade barriers for the good of every hardworking Canadian family and the future economic security of Canada. And this follows a suit from a few weeks ago. She said that she was willing to work with any other premier to just knock down the barriers. They come to a deal. Scott Moe also jumped on board. Now, it's interesting that she pointed out Tim Houston, because Tim Houston has now been kind of going against Premier Legault in Quebec, saying like, dude, you need to give up on this no pipeline situation. We need to get that going. And you can actually see from the comments here, a lot of people are kind of skeptical. So Eastern Canada, who has abused us for, I don't know, over 100 years, now are suddenly on our side. Excuse me if I have great doubts. I understand that you have to give this one more kick at the cat. However, Eastern Canada is never going to allow more pipelines. Last chance, and then time for statehood. Hopefully, Quebec won't screw over the rest of Canada as it tends to do. And this just kind of went on and on. But with that announcement, we also had Premier Doug Ford meeting with Mark Carney this morning before the meeting with all the other premiers. And this is how that went.
A morning meeting over breakfast between the Premier and Prime Minister-designate. Mark Carney swinging through Toronto to sit down with Doug Ford. Afterward, Ford called the meetup positive and productive.
It went very well. Yeah, he's a real gentleman, and we have a strong plan moving forward on the tariffs and getting the economy going as well.
Mr. Bell, can you tell us about how the meeting went with Mark Carney?
Yeah, it went very well. Actually, he's quite a good gentleman, and we just discussed what we're going to be facing with the USMCA deal. And I always tell everyone, get rid of this carbon tax, which he's agreeing to, which is good. So we won't be paying 20 cents a liter on gas. It's going to give you a little, stimulate the economy and make us more competitive. And just said we got to focus on jobs because the foundation of everything is our economy.
So it looks like maybe Doug Ford is also part of the Carney craze now, because it seems like he's a really nice guy after getting him a cup of coffee and some breakfast. But the interesting part about this whole meeting was Carney flew down to Toronto to meet with Ford. Then he traveled to Hamilton to visit none other than a steel manufacturing plant, which very surprising, seeing as Carney doesn't think we really use that much steel, right? Isn't that what he said a month and a half ago?
What we're going to do is make sure not that the government pays, not that we as taxpayers pay, but the large polluters pay. And so what happens?
But does that not ultimately trickle down?
No, because what the big companies are producing, by and large, are not products that we are consuming. There's some element of that, but by and large, a steel company, how much steel are you using these days, Todd?
But even with that being said, this press conference was one of the shortest I think I've ever seen. It was about 5 minutes on CPAC, had no steel workers behind him, and it was so bad that Mark Carney actually had to introduce himself by saying, "Oh, Mark Carney, by the way," because again, nobody knows who the hell this guy actually is.
There we go. So this is a dream. I get to speak to you, and you all have earplugs in, and you can't hear me. It's a dream for you. Not for me. Listen, I came here, I wanted to come here today, Mark Carney, by the way, I wanted to come here today.
Now, if you're used to these press conferences at these places, they usually have a wall of workers behind them. It's usually a lot longer of a press thing. They're making some sort of an announcement, which he did make an announcement, but followed up with no questions. And this actually was caught because CHCH News was there, and they said an inconspicuous start to the PM designated Mark Carney in Hamilton. No questions taken from reporters, and his handlers told the camera operator pulling the event to shut off the sound when he was inside talking to the workers. There he is, just running into his car. Like, why does this guy have so much security already? And how come he's not doing any of the local media? CHCH News says it's proud to be the news leader in Hamilton, Halton, and the Niagara region. He's in Hamilton at the steel plant. Don't you think you would probably benefit from doing some sort of media? Well, as we know, Carney likes to curtail all the media. We've seen that at his rallies, who he lets in, who he doesn't. And this security detail is just getting nuts. The other day at his rally before he became the leader of the Liberal Party, he had 2 RCMP officers there. Rebel News questioned them, saying, why does a public individual have RCMP here protecting them? It's just very strange. But something else that was found out today was by this gentleman, Brian. He wrote, Trudeau's itinerary today has nothing on it, yet Can Force One, the plane, just departed from Hamilton after arriving in Toronto from Ottawa this morning. And you can see the flight log here. From Ottawa, lands in Pearson. Reports said that he drove to Hamilton from here, but he probably drove to Toronto, met with Ford first, then drove over to Hamilton. But you can see the plane took off from Pearson to the Hamilton airport. And this was most likely to save Carney the trip back from Hamilton to Pearson. Then he got on the plane and flew back to Ottawa. For the so-called net zero guy, the Green Avenger, I gotta say, he's creating quite the carbon footprint for himself already after only being the elected prime minister for a few days. Now, one last story that I want to just top up on before we end the video is this one that's coming out of Waterloo in regards to St. Patrick's Day. St. Patrick's Day is going to be this Monday, but people are most likely going to be celebrating over the weekend. And this is a story that just came out a few days ago.
Good evening. 1 week before St. Patrick's Day, there is a new move to crack down on student street parties in Waterloo. A court injunction allowing police to arrest and even charge people over nuisance parties in the University District. CTV's Krista Simpson is here now with more details on this. Krista.
Tony, this court injunction raises the stakes for partiers. It means they could face a criminal charge of disobeying a court order. Regional police say they hope the injunction will allow them to stop the street party before it even really starts.
Last year, an estimated 9,500 people partied in the Marshall Street area of Waterloo for St. Patrick's Day. This year, regional police hope to stop the street party before it balloons. The city of Waterloo has been granted a court injunction that police say allows them to respond more quickly than in the past.
With the injunction, what it does is that it almost allows us to prevent that from happening, to disperse crowds before they gather.
The injunction allows Waterloo Regional Police to arrest and even criminally charge people participating in a street party.
Now, instead of it being a bylaw ticket, they could actually be charged criminally with breaching a court order, so there's a higher jeopardy for that. It's not meant to be this heavy-handed come in and arrest. It's meant to really educate and encourage people to kind of disperse, not actually allow the street gathering or unsanctioned events to happen in the first place.
The injunction is in place starting Friday until the end of day Monday, St. Patrick's Day, and applies to Waterloo's University District, which includes the Northdale and McGregor neighborhoods and Waterloo Park, as well as portions of the Sugarbush and Uptown neighborhoods.
We do hope that this does send the message that we are serious about these unsanctioned gatherings and that they are illegal. Our message is that we want students to celebrate in a safe manner that does not involve taking over a street and blocking traffic.
Now, I'm sorry, but you can't tell me that you're able to change certain bylaws so that it's not just a fine, now it's a criminal offense for kids that want to party on the street to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, yet you can't do nothing about these crazy protests that are happening on our streets constantly, whether it's for Palestine, whether it's for Hamas. Or a weather activist like we just had, I think it was last week in Toronto, where the police, instead of arresting the individuals blocking infrastructure or moving them out of the way, just decided, hey, let's redirect the TTC itself, turn these humongous buses around and try to make them do these, 25-point turns just to avoid them instead of doing your job and getting them off the street. And after seeing this, if you think that there is no two-tier policing system, then you're clearly wrong, because there's no way that you're going to allow these pro-Palestine protests, them burning flags, them chanting all this stuff, them attacking people, blocking major infrastructure to be a huge problem. Yet these students who just want to celebrate one day and potentially will be on the street, maybe not. You're not even just targeting them on the street. You just want to shut down parties in general. They're now going to have to deal with being potentially criminally charged for this. This doesn't make any sense. Another clip right above me says, should injunctions be used to monitor street parties? Street parties need to be monitored, but these protests and these parades and all this stuff don't. Like, even the comments section says, if we call it a protest, can it stay? Or will their bank accounts be frozen? Like, people are starting to realize how ridiculous our country is becoming. But with that being said, I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. And as always, I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.